The only thing that we're interested in is putting money in your wallet. If you want to bet the fights, if you want to have a little bit of action, you are in the right place. With my partner, Ian Parker, I am Brett Okamoto.
We're ready to rock between our parlays, our props, our straight picks. It's time to make money. Let's go.
What's up and welcome in to Best Bets. Phil Murphy here, the late notice replacement, the Bobby Green to the Islam Makhachev, who is Ian Parker, absolutely on fire. Ian, I come in energetic, maybe overdue for an appearance at this level, a fan favorite, but I'm standing across from somebody who is categorically on fire, and the receipts are there if nobody believes me. 4 straight main event wins. And even last week, man, you hit a 4-fight parlay for the main card, paid out plus 240.
Yeah, last week, and this is the betting game, we started off a little bit cold. We missed on Jessica Rose Clark and, the David Onama Benitez fight. Originally, I should have stuck to my gut, Phil. I had Onama. I went over 1.5, but then we bounced back. We hit the parlay, and we hit Jamal Hill inside the distance, really sounding off on that main event. So we're going to continue that momentum into this week, and we're going to keep hitting.
It's never a game in which you're going to hit 100% of the time, but you are hitting well above the expected average there. We look to keep it going with this week's main card. Again, fights get going at 7 p.m. Eastern on ESPN+. And looking at this main card, all topped by Islam Makhachev against Bobby Green at a catchweight bout. Misha Shirkinov and Wellington Turman, both men trying to get some measure of momentum going in the middleweight division. Ji Kim and Priscilla Cachoeira need something to go their way in the women's flyweight division. Then Arman Sarukian, Yoel Alvarez, men who both have 4-fight win streaks after a loss in their UFC debut. And the main card gets going with Armen Petrosyan against Gregory Rodriguez. We'll talk about all of those, but Ian, we start with this main event. Islam Makhachev, 10-1 in the promotion. I mean, he's starting to just mix it up for fun. His last 3 fights are submission wins, all different types of submissions. He's going against Bobby Green, who's paying plus 600 here. What's something you like with this matchup as Green gets that overdue first main event since he was in King of the Cage?
Well, it seems like in order to get to Islam Makhachev on short notice, you have to beat Nasrat Haqparast. Dan Hooker did it. And unfortunately, he came up short. And now the King Bobby Green, he literally said, if you call my phone, unfortunately, I'm going to say yes. This is a great opportunity for him, win or lose, to shine, get that main event spot that he definitely deserves. However, to me, this seems like a really, really, really big step up. A tough task, as everyone is describing Islam as the next coming of Khabib Nurmagomedov. And he is not only winning, he's winning in dominant fashion. And kudos to Islam also for taking this fight. He really deserves a top 5 guy. He's not getting that, but he is getting a good name and someone who has momentum in Bobby Green. At minus 900, this is where we come into play, Phil. We have to really find that niche, find where we can get value. And for me, as tough as Bobby Green is, as good as he is, and he has underrated wrestling and takedown defense, that does not mean he's going to be able to stop. Not the first attempt, the second attempt, but Islam will get this fight to the floor. And I think at some point or another, he finishes this inside the distance at a minus, I believe, 190 or minus 187. We're going to get the value there, and Islam Makhachev winning within the 5 rounds.
So Green has had, again, these are all 3-round fights, but 11 of his last 12 went the full 15 minutes, maybe not the full 25. What is the likelihood, in your estimation, this gets to a 4th or 5th round? If you split the fight, 2.5 rounds over under, Makhachev's gone over in 4 of his last 5, and that includes his last 2 appearances in the small octagon at the Apex.
For this fight for Bobby Green, as you see in his last few fights, he keeps his hands low, mainly to stop the takedowns and to hide that jab. And he's got one of the best jabs, maybe even in the UFC. He has to prevent the takedowns early on in the fight. He cannot allow Islam to dictate the pace. He can't allow that pressure against the cage. As good as Bobby is defending takedowns, he is going against someone who may be the best at this. Now, if you look, Bobby Green, he is not a finisher. As entertaining as he is, the one against Ali Aquinta, outside of that, decision, he is going to have to play a lot of defense in order to establish that offense. And if he can keep this fight standing, I will say then we're going to go into the deeper rounds. But if he gets taken down early and gives Islam a lot of time to work from top, that's where he's going to be in trouble, and that's where Islam will have a good chance of finishing this fight.
So to confirm, you feel like there's more value in maybe method of victory for Makhachev than necessarily an over-under type round pick?
Absolutely. Just this is a tough one to really determine how far this is going to go. For Bobby, if he can keep this standing, the fight can drag out because cardio's never been an issue. And at minus 900, we can't bet Islam straight. Plus 600 is a lot of fun for Bobby Green. I just don't see where he wins this. And as we saw in that last fight against someone in Dan Hooker, who outside of the Michael Chandler fight just does not get finished, Islam went to the ground early. And when he's there and they're dry, they're not sweaty yet, submissions are there, wide open. And that's where I think eventually he's going to get it done.
Now, a guy like me would see minus 900 for Makhachev and perhaps some durability from Bobby Green, and then use Makhachev as kind of parlay fodder. Is that something you'd recommend in this case, or does the bang for the buck not make sense?
Well, if you're going to parlay him, it really doesn't make a ton of sense. It's not going to add a lot to it. So if you are a believer in Islam Makhachev, I think even Islam by submission at minus 110 is a fair play. However, if he's on top and he wears Bobby Green down, he could land ground and pound and finish it that way. So yeah, the parlay, I looked into that, but as the number kept going up and up, it's just a real challenging, risk because, again, anything can happen in this sport. And the odds just aren't there. I mean, look at this, minus 375, minus 470. He's just on a roll. And the way he's climbing the ladder, he's fighting the appropriate opponents. I would have loved to have seen that Beneil Dariush fight due to Dariush's grappling ability. But look, Bobby the King Green is going to come in, and I just hope for an entertaining fight here. And we know that's what Bobby Green brings to the table.
And it seems like the money and the number continues to go toward Makhachev as we get closer to the fight. The confidence continues to grow. I don't know if it's that ESPN MMA video of Khabib's coaching right up front in the corner that gives people even less confidence, perhaps, in the upset pick. But we look at this co-main event, Misha Cirkunov against Wellington Turman. Cirkunov minus 120. He's lost 5 of his last 7, 4 by knockout. Had the sexy Peruvian necktie against Jimmy Crute. He's facing Wellington Turman, who's just 2-3 in his last 5, and darn near lost a decision to Sam Alvey, in which he was dominant, but got deducted twice for eye pokes in the 3rd round. He steps in for Mahmoud Muradov on a month's notice. Where do you see value in this matchup?
For me, you would think that Misha Cirkunov has the advantage on the ground, but what people may not know is that Wellington Turman does have a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. When he first came into the UFC, we saw that ground game. But sometimes when guys get a TKO and they're Jiu-Jitsu experts, they tend to get a little too comfortable on the feet. And also when you have 2 guys that are essentially ground experts, fight tends to stay standing. And we saw in that last fight with Misha Cirkunov against Krzysztof Jotko, he could not get the fight to the floor. His takedown attempts were too predictable. It ended up being a striking battle. It went the distance. Same thing with Turman. He just couldn't get Alvey to the ground. He wanted to make a statement, try to knock out Sam Alvey. Fight went the distance. So for me, I think this fight goes over 1.5 rounds here.
Payout there, minus 162. In the women's flyweight division, Ian, we have 2 fighters definitely in need of some momentum. Ji-Yoon Kim has lost 3 of her last 4. She missed weight in 2 of those, once badly. Now training at Syndicate MMA against Priscilla Cachoeira, where the money seems to be going toward the Zombie Girl. And by the way, what a great nickname matchup we have here, Fire Fist against Zombie Girl. But Cachoeira just 2-4 in the UFC, and she missed weight last time out. Where do you see value here?
You know what? If you're going to take this from me, this is an underdog or pass situation. As much as Kim, a.k.a. Fire Fist, has the ability, she's probably the more technical striker here. Zombie Girl, I love that nickname too. She's got power. She has beaten better competition against other grapplers like Gina Mazzani, where she was losing, her cardio held up, and she got the TKO. I think if she presses forward and really lands that power shot, which I think she can, the value is in the underdog, so I'm going with Zombie Girl here.
And she did get the knockout as well against a very durable Shauna Dobson. We continue in the lightweight division. 2 men who lost their UFC debuts to Russian monsters. I almost said mobsters. Russian monsters, and then ran off a 4-fight win streak since. Joel Alvarez lost to Damir Ismagulov, and now he's won 4 in a row, 4 finishes against Arman Tsarukyan, who lost to Makhachev, and that loss is aging beautifully. He's won 4 straight since. Money seems to be going toward the Spaniard, Alvarez. Do you agree? I know he's the underdog, but I'm saying the trend of the money is.
Yeah, I think what people are seeing in Alvarez, that last fight against Thiago Moises, granted he missed weight, he's huge for the weight class, he pressures really well, and he's got a lot of power. However, I'm having a lot of trouble picking against Arman Tsarukyan, who I believe is a true-to-form blue-chip prospect in this division. Now, minus 220, that is a little bit tough here. And Alvarez has got great durability. So if you're going to make this play on Arman, either toss him in a parlay, which we will later on in the show, or take him by decision. I just think his ground game and his grappling is going to be the way to go here. And he's a smart guy. He's got high fight IQ. He doesn't want to get into a firefight with Joe Alvarez.
And what do you think about Alvarez's evolution? He's a guy who won 16 of his first 17 fights by submission, and then part of this win streak in the UFC, 2 of the last 3 have been by knockout. Sometimes we see guys get over-reliant on the growing area of their game. Any fears there for those who might be backing Alvarez?
You know, you make a great point here with Alvarez. I think in this fight, the way for him to win is to keep the fight standing and to apply pressure. You know, when guys get into the UFC and they win a certain way, and then it takes that one knockout, and then all of a sudden it starts putting it all together, he's becoming very well-rounded. The only challenge he's really had is that scale. He needs to make weight for this fight. That's also one of my concerns with Alvarez. You know, and against someone like Arman, who's just such a well-rounded fighter, but knows where to go when the fight gets tricky. We've seen that in his last few fights. He does not have an ego. He knows he has to keep winning. This is a dangerous fight for him based on his ranking compared to where Alvarez sits. I think people understand how Alvarez could win, but for me, that IQ of Arman has got to be the way to go.
Ian, the main card opens in the middleweight division. Arman Petrosyan, a slight underdog to Gregory Rodriguez. Money seems to be creeping toward Petrosyan, making his full promotional debut, had a knockout on the Contender Series in October, going against RoboCop, a man 4-0 in 2021, and then showed well, pretty well on a grappling event on Fight Pass. Looks like the kind, to me, and maybe you can unsee this, I can't. It looks like the cousin of the late Ryan Jimmo, the Brazilian cousin, perhaps there. Where do you think there might be value in this main card opener?
Phil came to play today. I like that reference. That was good between RoboCop and Jimbo. You were spot on right there. You know, for me, I think Rodriguez, when he came into the UFC, that first fight, he was an underdog, and we took him there. His striking is pretty underrated, and the grappling he showed in Fight Pass was quite surprising. You know, people see him as this really muscular guy. He comes forward. He is a little robotic with his striking. But his cardio, you know, he gets in a little bit into that rock'em sock'em robot, you know, no pun intended there, where he feels like he can eat one as long as he delivers it. However, I don't usually love taking Dana White Contender Series fighters on the first fight in their debut, but there's something about Petrosyan that we saw. It was that precision. It was the way he took his angles with the striking here, and I really think this is someone to keep an eye on. So I'm going to roll the dice on the underdog here in Petrosyan. I think that methodical striking is what gets it done.
Hey, you're not alone. If you look at the line over the last day or so, it seems like that's where the money in recent hours is leaning. Ian, I put some pressure on you off the top. Mentioned the 4-fight parlay you hit on last week's main card, paid out at plus 240. What's a parlay that you like in this main card?
All right, for UFC Fight Night, we like to start off with Arman again. Taking the pressure off having to win by a way of method, we're going to throw him in the first one. Ignacio Bahamondes coming off that highlight reel TKO. Josiane Nunes also coming off a TKO. Her opponent's taking this on short notice. I like her there. And last but not least, Jonathan Martinez. That last fight, we finally saw the Martinez we've been waiting for. That takedown defense and that striking. I like him to round it out at a plus 349 odds parlay, Phil.
And Ian, I didn't mean to hem you in there with main card picks. That is a parlay of results that you like from this card. And I agree with Josiane Nunes. The girl's 8-1 as a pro, only lost to Talia Santos back in 2013. So put together a nice little run of form over her 8-fight career. Looking elsewhere on this preliminary card, the early part of the show, those who are tuning in early, what plays do you think present a little value?
We're right here between Perez and Martinez. I do think this fight goes the distance. The catch weight was already moved up, so something tells me that it might be Martinez with the weight issues. Perez is very tough, so I think that goes all three. Brahimaj over Gilmore. That one's tough. We haven't seen him win yet. Gilmore also has got really good cardio. I see that fight. However, someone's going to sleep in that one. And then for the final one with Hernandez and versus Victor, I like over 2.5 rounds in those prelims. And then moving on, we got Ignacio Bahamondes and Rong Zhu. For me, I like Ignacio here by decision. Josiane Nunes over Pascual inside the distance. We've seen that power, and Pascual will oblige in the striking. And this one, I think, is going to be fight of the night, as long as it lasts more than a few minutes. Terrence McKinney over Fares Ziam.
Yeah, Pasquale stepping in for Nunes as the second change of opponent. She debuted on Invicta last month, had a great knockout, but certainly a step up in class there. I do want to talk about Rong Chu against Ignacio Bahamondes. Rong Chu, a guy who makes me feel ancient, first UFC fighter born in the 2000s to win inside the octagon. He is 1-1, though the one win came after missing weight, facing Bahamondes, who dazzled with a wheel kick knockout of Roosevelt Roberts last time out. What do you tip here?
You know, for me, Rong Zhu has an opportunity here to kind of reestablish himself. And the UFC is pretty much saying, hey, we're putting you against a guy that we really believe in. So it's time to either sink or swim. For Rong Zhu, my issue with him is his lack of output. We know he has the power. We know his striking is there. But can he get it done against someone who is going to come forward, someone who will put the output, and someone who could also take the fight to the ground if need be? But I don't think it's going to be enough. I'm a big believer in Ignacio Bahamondes. I like the camp where he's at. There's a lot of guys there in the weight class that drill hard with him. And we did see that knockout. But if you take away the knockout, that performance was flawless. I think his striking, his ground game, can get it done. But Rong's just tough to put away. So we're going to get it plus odds and do Ignacio Bahamondes by decision.
Yeah, Rongju was terrific on the Chinese local scene, a step up in class coming over here. And again, a very young fighter, very early in his career, like you said, against a polished striker in Bahamondes. Ian, the fight you said you might tip as fight of the night, another great nickname matchup. T-Rex against the Smile Killer. You've already said you like McKinney at plus 105. Guy's gotten a lot of hype because whether it was his LFA days, strike hard promotion, or his 7-second UFC debut, last 4 fights for him lasted a total of 152. A little bit of a different challenge here in Fares Ziam, the Smile Killer, who is the slight favorite in this fight.
You know, for me, Fares Ziam is another solid prospect. Usually the UFC doesn't do this, but they are putting 2 guys here right now because it's just sometimes where they meet in this part of the career. For Ziam, his last 2 fights, he's won by decision. You know, he's been able to control opponents. His wrestling's been good. But what people may not know is Terrence McKinney has very solid wrestling, great takedown defense. And if he's going to be able to keep this fight standing, so far from what we've seen in his career, he does have power, but he does not force it. That came off a really soft one, too, that just landed within the flow of his striking. So for me, I think the dog value is the way to go, and I like McKinney here as the better prospect.
And the money is creeping toward McKinney as well. So if you like him at plus 105, now is the time to jump on it. It all goes down this weekend at the UFC Apex, just west of the Strip, 7 p.m. Eastern, main card on ESPN Plus, and of course ESPN.com/MMA is where you can go for all coverage leading to and through that event. Ian, it is the best time of the show, and you know what? I'm going to go a leg up on Okamoto. I think this is the week the parlay hits. Who are your best bets?
Not only do I hope the parlay hits, I hope we hit that 100% that we know is very difficult to do. I'm going to start off with Islam Makhachev inside the distance. Cirkunov Turman over 1.5. I'm going to roll with Ignacio Bahamondes, but we're going to go method of victory here by decision at plus 150. And last but not least, earlier in the card, Brahimaj Gilmore does not go the distance. And for our parlay, Sarukian, Bahamondes, Nunes, and Jonathan Martinez at plus 349. Let's put a bow on it and let's make everyone some money, Phil.
Amplifying the plus 240 on which you hit last week. But again, this is the run of form. You're the Makhachev of the betting world right now. He gets a test on late notice. You passed your late notice test with my dopey backside filling in. Thanks so much, Ian. I'm Phil Murphy. He's Ian Parker. For all coverage and best bets, and Brett Okamoto returning next week. Keep it right here on ESPN.com/MMA. Thanks for watching. Enjoy the fights.